require all federal employees to get vaccinated?
That's under consideration right now, but if you're not vaccinated, you're not nearly as smart as I thought you were.
That's interesting, considering just last week the Biden administration opposed federal agencies requiring employees to get vaccinated. And then the White House said staff is not being forced to take it. So now Biden's considering it. Where is the science in all of this? Where's his backbone? Joining me now to discuss is senior writer at National Review, David Harsanyi. David, it feels like the White House just says whatever it wants on any given day about vaccines, and we're supposed to forget whatever was said a month ago. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is risk aversion, political risk aversion. It is Biden just hearing a bunch of voices on the left complaining about the rise in cases, and this is what he does to make it look like he's doing something to stop it. But obviously, I think, as you've mentioned many times, the science does not back up mask wearing, which has nothing, which seems to be mandated now in the House, I believe, maybe not the Senate, which has nothing to do with that, but, has something to do with vaccines. But, I don't know how the two are even linked, right? I mean, wearing masks doesn't persuade anyone to have a vaccine.
Yes, and yet we have more pushing from the White House and the Democrats for both of these things, and it's also happening at the local and state level in some places. Mayor Bill de Blasio here in New York City weighed in on this. Here's what he said.
On September 13th, the entire city workforce will be mandated under the COVID safety mandate to either get vaccinated, which is far preferable, or get tested once a week.
So this is what they're doing. For a long time, it seemed there was at least lip service paid to you get to choose. They're not going to force vaccinations. Biden said he doesn't want to force vaccinations. But now it's, well, we want the private sector to do it wherever we can. And we want city governments to either get people vaccinated or make their lives really annoying and miserable. By the way, he left out there, you're supposed to mask up, too. So if you're not vaccinated in New York City and you work for the government, you got to get tested every week and you got to mask up. That seems like they're not giving you much of a choice.
That's true, but I have seen some pushback. In Michigan and even in New Jersey, governors have said that they won't mandate mask wearing, even for especially for vaccinated people, which the CDC, I guess, wants us to do. So I think that the reason isn't because they've all of a sudden found the light. The reason is I think that their constituents and people are not interested in going through this again, especially when you see that, the cases of rising, it's just not as dangerous. And frankly, I know this is going to sound terrible. I mean, if you don't want to vaccinate and you want to take your chances, I think that should be up to you. It's a free country. If you have a vaccine, COVID's not that dangerous, right? If you're a kid, COVID's not that dangerous. If you're a kid, COVID is not dangerous for you in any real way. So I don't know. I mean, it's a free country. We should be able to live the way.
At what point can we? I mean, I'm actually really curious about this in your mind, David, because at what point can we just say people that are people that choose not to get vaccinated, it's not my problem at this point. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this. If someone's choosing not to do it, people have chosen not to get the flu vaccine, stretching back for decades, and a lot of those people, especially if they were, older and had more health issues, ended up dying. Maybe the vaccine would have saved them, maybe not. But we certainly didn't say you have to do it as a function of law or keeping your job. But now this is different. I mean, this is a virus with an above 99% survival rate.
Right. Now, at least, and I disagreed with it, lockdowns and so forth, pre-vaccine, the excuse was, or the case was, hey, listen, we have this pandemic we can't stop. We can't do anything about it. We have to make sure that it doesn't spread. Now, we do have something we can do about it we can do about it personally for it not to spread. And most, what are we at? 48%, something like that in the nation is vaccination rate, which is as good as almost any country and a little better than most Western countries. So we can do something about it. So there is really no reason for lockdowns or mandates for mask wearing. And I'm against mandates for vaccines simply because I don't think we should be forcing people to put medicines in their bodies. I don't know that there's any federal law that I don't know if there's any sort of law in the past that would mandate such a thing. I don't know that there is. I don't think that there should be. And certainly, as you mentioned, most people do not die of COVID. So that mandate's not necessary. So I don't know where this is all going. It doesn't make sense. As you said, it's hard to talk about it because one day Biden says one thing, the next day he says something else. CDC, who knows what they're going to say tomorrow? It seems like it's political pressure, performative in many ways, all this stuff, and pretty dangerous for our rights if people go along with it.
I mean, the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, has mandated, again, vaccines and or weekly testing for employees. So there are people that are still trying to really use whatever tools they have at their disposal. And I think also another part of this is that you have a wink and a nod from the White House, from the Biden administration, to private sector companies, right? You've got Google now requiring all employees to get the vaccine if they want to return to the office. And the federal government is clearly saying, yeah, this is great. Now, I know people could say, well, these are private companies, but it all feels a little bit like a bait and switch here, David, because about 6 months ago, when the vaccines are first really getting rolled out, it's going to be a choice, people can do, and now it's actually not really a choice. Get vaccinated or else.
Right. Now, I would say they're private companies and they can do what they want. The problem is, as we saw with Facebook and with speech issues, that quite often the government has such influence and power over these companies that they just do whatever it does. Maybe they're not even colluding to do it, but they just do it. And that seems problematic to me. Not that I know how we can stop that. Listen, I mean, I'm not against private companies saying you have to get a vaccine. You can go work somewhere else if you don't like it. I have a bigger problem when the government, which has a massive workforce, starts doing it. Because I think that they live under a different set of sort of rules than a private company. So, but if Google wants to do it, that's fine by me.
Are you at this point concerned that there's just a large segment of the country, I can't give what the number is, I don't think anyone knows, that's just never going to let this go? That as long as there is such a thing as COVID in circulation, we're going to have to hear about it. They're going to want to wear masks. They're going to want booster shots.
Yeah, I mean, and COVID is going to be with us forever. It's just going to be here. It's not going to go away. And I think that they use this as a way to expand the power of the state. And there's this weird sort of fetish about masks that is just, I don't understand. I live in Montgomery County in Maryland, and I go to the supermarket and about 80% of people are still wearing masks. I just don't understand. It's one of the most vaccinated counties near DC. And it's near DC. So I don't supposedly we're supposed to be following the science here, and we're not.
There are counties where there are people masking up in considerable numbers, particularly in the Northeast. And you mentioned, what do you say, Montgomery County, where it's like a half a dozen people a month are dying in that county from COVID. I mean, an actual count on one hand number of people, and folks are still walking around who are vaccinated with masks on. I mean, at some point, this is just an anxiety disorder on display or some kind of political signaling.
You literally would have to go out and try. You couldn't, if you wanted to, try and get it and die from it if you have a vaccine. I mean, you literally couldn't do it. You couldn't kill yourself with COVID, and yet people walk around in masks. So I don't get it. But listen, you do what you want. But it does, I think, speak poorly of people that they're so risk averse and so scared of things, that they don't need to be scared of, or that they're scared of the wrong things. And they're so willing to jump when the CDC says something. I mean, the CDC has no power over you, and people act like it does. So that is bothersome in sort of bigger, longer term ways, I think.
David, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.